It was thought during much of the offseason that USC would be rudely welcomed to the Big Ten with a trip to take on the national champions of the Big House. But the odds have turned here in the last couple of weeks. Welcome into the Voice of College Football and our weekly visit from Steve Merrill from Wager Talk. And of course, get on over to wagertalk.com. Check out Steve's takes on not just college football, but the NFL and Major League Baseball as well. Steve, it's USC, it's Michigan. And just a couple of weeks ago, Michigan was a healthy touchdown favorite during the offseason. But suddenly with USC playing well, Michigan looking very putrid on offense, USC is now the favorite.
Yeah, in fact, the Circa in Las Vegas back in June put advanced lines on a lot of these major games. And these are bettable numbers back in June. And Michigan was a 9-point favorite when it first came out. Just a week ago, with USC having a bye week, DraftKings has look-ahead lines on Wednesday for many major games for the following week. Just last Wednesday, USC was a 2-point favorite. They didn't even play. Michigan looked subpar against Arkansas State. Now they're a 5.5-point dog. So it's moved 2 full touchdowns from the summer. It's moved a field goal just from last week with USC not even playing. So the question becomes, first of all, is there now value with Michigan? And then second of all, can we trust Michigan? Well, I run my 10,000 game simulation, database simulation of all the games every week, and there is value. In fact, I project an outright Michigan win by 3 points, and that includes the first 3 games of this season factored in heavily. So it's not like this is just blind. We have some data to work with now. And then on top of that, we asked, do we have a catalyst here for maybe a spark in that offense? And I think we do with the quarterback change. Warren is now out. The turnovers have been a major problem. He's thrown 6 interceptions in 3 games. They bring in, Alex Ouija, who's actually a run-based quarterback, yet he's only completed 3 passes this year, 6 attempts. He's thrown for 2 touchdowns, the same that Warren threw for in 72 pass attempts. So I think it's going to be a run-based offense. I'm not still sold on this USC defense. They do look improved this year, just like LSU looked improved in that first game. But those were 2 really bad defenses last year. LSU still threw for over 300 yards in that game. But what really jumped out to me for that USC game was the lack of rushing. Just 69 rushing yards against a very suspect LSU defense. Michigan is the better defensive team here, the better rushing attack, and we get them as a substantial home dog. And, oh, by the way, I look at public consensus big for the NFL, of course. I do that video at wagertalk.com every week for the NFL, but I followed in college, and USC is looking like one of the most public sides this weekend in college football. Yet another reason this line is too high. So hold your nose, maybe. It's hard to believe we're saying hold your nose and play the defending national champs as a 5.5-point home dog, but that's the situation.
And that's exactly the feedback we're receiving here from fans and callers is that Michigan looks awful. USC is back. Right. And I think a lot of people are likening this USC team to what they saw when Texas went to the Big House just a few weeks ago and looking to see that type of game again and making maybe too many analogies between the 2 situations.
No question about it. Recent bias is something that you got to be very careful with in sports betting. And I get that this Michigan offense does not look good, but then again, we have a catalyst. And it's interesting because the biggest fade in the NFL the last couple of years for the public has been the Panthers. And it's very hard for me to back the Carolina Panthers. And this week they're making a quarterback change as well with Andy Dalton for Bryce Young. So whenever you're going to back a team that's struggling, you want to have a reason that maybe something has changed. The question is, do we risk money this week or do we just sit back and kind of see it first? I think we're getting so much extra line value right now that it's worth a wager. It's worth a risk on Michigan.
Steve delivers his under-the-radar selection here each week at the Voice of College Football. You can get that by being a premium member either on YouTube or on Patreon. Just please go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, or as a YouTube channel member. And Steve merely proved that he is human last week by finally missing a pick. He's still 23-6 against the spread in his under-the-radar selections. And also, Steve, you've got a special deal for some folks if they head on over to wagertalk.com.
Yeah, I want people to go a little deeper than just the under-the-radar pick, that I give everybody here. Last Saturday, we went 3-1 in college football. In fact, I had Tennessee and Miami of Florida. They won by a combined 133-0. I've been doing this for 29 years. Not sure I'll have another day where I have best bets in the next 29 years that win by 133-0. But seriously, there's some really strong best bets this Saturday. And if anybody would like to get one for free, all they have to do is use promo code VOICE25 as you see on the screen. You go to my page, Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com, select one of the $25 best bets, any one that you want. And then at checkout, use that promo code VOICE25. You get an instant $25 discount, so you'll get it for free. Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com.
And folks, to make that a little bit easier for you to get on over to Wager Talk in that specific page, we are leaving the link down in the description section of the video. So you just click on the link. It's at the very top of the description section, and you can follow Wager Talk right to Steve's page and take advantage of this promo code VOICE25, as well, of course, as Steve's under the radar selection here at the Voice of College Football. And you can find out more about that. I was explaining to a viewer just the other day that the TV networks don't necessarily select the best matchups. They select the best draws. Fox's Big Noon Kickoff in Columbus, Ohio, as is the case several times during the season, but this time for the Marshall game, as Ohio State's a 40-point favorite. But again, this is the Fox selection for their selected game for noon Eastern time. We got Steve Merrill on the line from wagertalk.com. And of course, catch Steve's work for the complete college football landscape, as well as the NFL and Major League Baseball. 40 points on the side of the Buckeyes for this one against a Marshall team that's actually probably the best team Ohio State's faced in 3 games this season.
Yeah, they were a 35-point favorite against Western Michigan 2 weeks ago, won that 56-0. This is probably where that line would have probably been about 35 now. I think it's probably jacked up a little bit because they've been blowing teams out. We always start with a starting point, though, which is my simulations through the database 10,000 times. On average, I've got Ohio State winning by 44. Now, that's not a surprise because on average, I favor big favorites in September. We talk about it every week. Last week for my clients at wagertalk.com, I had Tennessee and Miami and Florida as part of my 3-1 Saturday. They won by a combined 133-0. So you can't be afraid to lay these big numbers. Ohio State does have the conference opener at Michigan State next week, but they're coming off a bye week. So I just don't know how much of a letdown spot this is. You mentioned national TV, home game for the 3rd straight week. If you're going to play it, you better lay it. And I do actually think this line's a little short as I project a 44-point win for the Buckeyes.
That Western Michigan team had just come off a game in which they went to Wisconsin and they led by a point in the 4th quarter against a decent Wisconsin team. They go to Columbus and they were down, having given up 500 yards of total offense in the first half of that game against Ohio State. So as somebody likes to say out there, there are levels to these things. So Steve as well, talking about levels, he's got certainly levels in increasing your odds of beating the odds, and then also, of course, his money management system. And you can catch Steve's work at wagertalk.com. And Steve, you got a special promotion for the folks.
Yeah, so I've 3-1 last Saturday. If you'd like to get one of my college best bets this Saturday in football, just go to wagertalk.com, go to my page, Steve Merrill, and use promo code VOICE25. You see it on the screen there, VOICE25, and you'll get a $25 instant credit. So just select any of the best bets you'd like and go to that checkout page and use promo code VOICE25, and you get $25 off, which means you're basically getting the best bet for free.
Folks, the link is in the description section of the video, so we make it easy for you to follow Steve's link right to his page on wagertalk.com, the top of the page on the description section down below this video, as well as, of course, Steve's Under the Radar selection, exclusive here at the Voice of College Football, 23-6 against the spread. Welcome to the SEC Oklahoma. It's game number 4 for the Sooners, but of course their SEC debut as they host Tennessee in a much anticipated game on ABC prime time. We got Steve Merrill on the line from Wager Talk. Wagertalk.com is the place to catch Steve's work, college football, the NFL, and Major League Baseball. And we will tell you more about how you can take advantage of Steve's selections there at Wager Talk in just a minute. We got Oklahoma, we got Tennessee. This doesn't happen very often for Oklahoma. They're a 7-point underdog at home.
Yeah, this game reminds me a lot of the USC-Michigan game, which we also did, obviously, a deep dive on the team channels for you as well. Huge top 25 matchup. And just like Michigan, Oklahoma is underachieving offensively this year. Now we see them as a rare home dog against a explosive offensive opponent, although Tennessee may be more explosive than anybody in college football. In fact, last week I laid the 49 for my clients at Wager Talk, and it was never in doubt. An easy 71-0 blowout win, and Tennessee was up 65-0 at halftime. They only scored 2 field goals in the second half. They just took their foot off the gas, and we've talked a lot about this with Tennessee. Josh Heupel's the best first-half spread machine in college football. He's covered well over 70% first-half lines since being there the last several seasons. By the way, Tennessee's about a 4-point first half favorite, 7-point favorite for the full game. So if you are going to take a shot with Tennessee, you probably want to do it early, but you're paying a premium no matter how you play them. And I do like Oklahoma in this game. In fact, my 10,000 game simulation through the database has Oklahoma winning by 2 points outright on average. And to put that in perspective, the Circa in Las Vegas this summer in June put advanced lines out on all these major games. Oklahoma was a 2-point favorite this summer in June when it first opened. And even a week ago, DraftKings last Wednesday before the teams played this past weekend had Tennessee as only a 2-point road favorite, and now it's 7. So the line went from 2 to 7 just based on last week's results alone. Oklahoma landed right on the point spread, 15-point favorite. They won by 15 against Tulane. Tennessee blew out Kent State. I mean, that was expected as far as I was concerned. So I do think you're really paying a premium here to back Tennessee. I like the line value with Oklahoma at +7. You might even find a 7.5 by the time this game kicks off at 7:30 Eastern on Saturday night. Also, Jackson Arnold, mobile quarterback for Oklahoma. They have struggled to throw the ball this year. That's been their problem. But he moves well, and with that aggressive Tennessee pass rush, I think that's going to be an asset. And this is also a big step up in class for Tennessee's offense. The Oklahoma defense is actually pretty solid this year. You know, the last few seasons it's been all offense, no defense for Oklahoma. It's going to be the opposite this year. I think we're getting a good defensive dog here with the Oklahoma Sooners +7.
We appreciate Steve recording these segments with us here at the Voice of College Football each and every week, but you can get a much deeper dive with Steve on college football and the NFL, Major League Baseball. But specifically, Steve, you've got a highlight, a promotional package available for everyone this week.
Yeah, so last Saturday, 3-1 on our college football best bets at Wager Talk. We had a 2-1 Sunday, 29-9 baseball run over the past month. If you would like to try a free best bet, I want to make it very simple. My best bets are $25 per play. Use promo code VOICE25. You can choose any sport, any game that you want. And at checkout, use VOICE25. You'll get an instant $25 discount. So you'll get that best bet for free. Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com.
Folks, the link is right in the description section of this video on the top line. So we make it easy for you to follow Steve to his page on wagertalk.com. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now. Clemson rebounded from that smashing by Georgia in week 1 by demolishing Appalachian State, surprisingly, with a 56-point first half. And Clemson's got a week off, a bye week to prepare for the ACC slate, and a North Carolina State team that is typically up for the challenge. But Clemson's a 19-point favorite at home. We got Steve Merrill on the line from wagertalk.com. Steve, Clemson, of course, has seen better times, but after the drubbing by Georgia, the odds makers feel pretty confident that they are ready to handle NC State.
Yeah, we've seen a substantial move to Clemson actually in this game. In fact, just a week ago, DraftKings had a look-ahead bettable line a week before the games, 12.5. Circa in Las Vegas this past Sunday night opened 14, and now we're sitting 19. And this summer, back in June, the Circa opened a line of -8. So this June, the line was 8. A week ago, it was 12.5. Just this past Sunday, it opens 14, and now it's 19. I'm even seeing 20s out there. So the question becomes, is there still value with Clemson? Well, actually, in this situation, I think there is. We talk a lot about those look-ahead, the differences between the look-ahead numbers. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the value's gone. In fact, my 10,000 game database simulation has on average Clemson winning this game by 25 points this week. So the Tigers are the play. I'm not sure NC State can catch up once they get behind. And if you're going to play it, I would lay it with the Clemson Tigers.
Florida State football has established itself as the team not to play in 2024. They have done that rather quickly and have the dubious distinction of being a double-digit favorite back-to-back weeks to open the season, losing the game outright. They were another substantial touchdown to 8-point favorite against Memphis, lost that game outright. Steve Merrill's here with wagertalk.com. And of course, Steve joins us each and every week here at the Voice of College Football to break down the biggest games. And that's quite a run that's Florida State's on, is heavy favorites. This week, it's a 2.5 against Cal at home.
Yeah, I always talk about the comparisons between the financial markets and the sports betting markets. And one of my favorite adages in the financial markets is, don't try to catch a falling knife. You know, when a stock or a commodity is in a tailspin down, you don't try to predict the bottom. You let the bottoming process play out. Well, Florida State might be the epitome of a falling knife. A falling Seminole spear might be a more accurate adaptation to how to phrase it. But this is a team that had national title hopes, top 10 ranked. That Georgia Tech loss really hurt, but then the Boston College loss basically ruined their season. And what's even more important, as you know, Mark, those are both conference games, right? So it's not like, oh, they can just win the conference schedule now and get in the playoffs. They're double screwed after the 0-2 start for that reason. And we thought maybe the bye week would reset them. We talked about the game here last week, but it didn't. This is a team that came out and only put up 12 points. They put up 12 and 13 in their last two games. The under is 3-0, by the way, this season. So if that offense continues to struggle, which it very well might against Cal, the under could be worth a look. But yeah, this line has been definitely lowered tremendously. You factor in 3 points or so for home field advantage. The odds makers are now saying that Cal is the better overall team. Just not sure that's the case. And it's also a very difficult travel spot for Cal, who's new to the Atlantic coast, going from West Coast to East Coast. And this is something just league-wide in both the NFL and college football and other sports. You know, that coast-to-coast travel, especially when you're not used to it, can be difficult. So the line value in this situation favors Florida State. The problem is I'm not trying to catch a falling knife. If I had to play it, it's Seminoles, but I need to see them do something first. Do we maybe hedge a little bit with the under? Probably not. I mean, this line is really low. I don't pass a lot here. I always try to give you a lean. My database simulation, 6.2. So on average, we've got Florida State winning by 6, and that factors in the bad start. So I would lean Florida State just based on the line value in the situation. But once again, not a team I'm trusting anytime soon.
And Steve, just to accentuate that travel adversity for Cal, it's not just going from West Coast to East Coast, but in the last 3 weeks, from West Coast to East Coast to West Coast, back Auburn, to East Coast, as they went to Auburn just a couple weeks ago and pulled out a very nice 7-point win as a 2-touchdown dog. But can they do it again? Miami can take another step toward ruling the Sunshine State with a win against South Florida. Of course, they took care of the Florida Gators on the road, and surprisingly, the Power 5 travels to the G5 program as Miami will show up in Tampa to take on South Florida. We got Steve Merrill on the line from wagertalk.com. College football at the NFL and Major League Baseball. You can find Steve's work right there. We will tell you more in just a minute. All right, Steve, we got Miami. Of course, they came off the impressive showing against Florida. They've drubbed 2 inferior foes. 62-0 is the last outing against Ball State, and they go to South Florida, which, of course, most famously gives Alabama trouble.
Yeah, so last week I had a 3-1 Saturday at wagertalk.com. I had Tennessee minus 49. They win 71-0. I had Miami of Florida minus the 40. They win 62-0. They combined 133-0. Yet what's interesting is now the line is inflated for both Tennessee and Miami of Florida. In fact, my database simulation shows inflation in both those games, including this one, as my 10,000 game simulation projects just over a 14-point win for Miami of Florida. And, I mentioned, Mark, I always like to lay big numbers in September. Obviously, I did that last week with those two teams winning 133-0. But this is a situation where I would pump the brakes a little bit for a couple reasons. First of all, the line is too high. I project a 14-point win. Current line is about 16.5, 17 in a lot of spots now. 17 is a very key number. I would say there's about a 3 to 4% chance Miami wins by exactly 17 points. So it's 17 or more. I do lean towards South Florida here. The question becomes, are they a live dog? Do they have a chance to compete? Because that's the other thing you always want to look for. And I think they do, actually. They ran for 369 rushing yards last week against Southern Miss. They put up over 200 yards in the other two games this year, including 206 yards at Alabama. That's pretty impressive. So this is a team I think that can control the line of scrimmage a bit and stay in this game. And then on top of that, Miami of Florida has a quick turnaround next week for a Friday night game at home against Virginia Tech as they open up the ACC schedule. So not a great situational spot for Miami. We have kind of an in-state rival dog, if you want to call them that can run the ball. I think there's value with South Florida, especially at plus 17 or more.
It's always a good time to check out Steve's complete work at wagertalk.com with the Major League Baseball playoffs coming very soon. And of course, the NFL, but especially now, Steve, is the time to lock in.
Yeah, last Saturday, 3-1 in college football, 2-1 Sunday in the NFL, 29-9 current baseball run. If you want to get a free best bet, you choose the sport, you choose the day, use promo code VOICE25, and you'll get an instant $25 discount on any $25 best bets. You're getting it for free when you use VOICE25 at checkout. Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com. And oh, by the way, I put a bonus free play on my page each and every day.
Folks, we've made it easy to find those selections as well. Steve's page is the link at the top of the description section right on this video. And then separate to us here at the Voice of College Football, of course, is the exclusive Under the Radar selection. You can catch that at patreon.com or as a premium YouTube channel member on the main channel. If you watch me on a regular basis here at the Voice of College Football, you realize that I enjoy oddities, strange statistics, aberrations, and nobody hits that in college football betting like the Iowa Hawkeyes, of course. And sure, the offense is improved, sure, but let's not go crazy on this. And of course, 2 weeks ago, they ran into a second half game against Iowa State that they lost on a 54-yard field goal. And so now it's Big Ten play for a couple teams that are used to playing those sorts of games as Iowa goes to Minnesota. And of course, all sorts of people got upset or elated because there was an Iowa late touchdown on a punt return that, of course, was called back based on an illegal fair catch signal that caused all sorts of controversy last year. So the two teams get together once again. We got Steve Merrill on the line from Wager Talk to help us break it down, Steve.
Yeah, so Iowa's a fascinating team to me as well, Mark. I always love talking about them with you here on the Hawkeye Team channel because they were so good defensively last year, but so equally bad offensively. And then, head coach's son, no longer the OC, so maybe there's no more daddy ball. We got a chance, 40-0 win against Illinois State to start. It was looking pretty good. I drank the Kool-Aid. I bit into it against Iowa State. I've only lost 2 college football games in the past 2 weeks for my clients, and that was one of them in which Iowa had a 13-0 lead with that strong defense. I felt like I was on the right side there a couple of Saturdays ago, and they found a way to come up short. That's all she wrote for Iowa. I'm not messing with this side anytime soon, but I will look at the total in this game. First, by the way, my 10,000 game simulation projects on average a 1-point Iowa win. So at 2.5, the line's a little high. What you want to keep an eye out for, though, is if it hits that key number of 3. At that point, there is some value with Minnesota in what should be a very low-scoring game because, as you see on the screen, the total is 35.5. So that key number of 3 is more likely in a low-scoring game. So at 3 or more, I lean Minnesota, but I like under 35.5. This is an Iowa team that went under the total 9 straight games to finish the season last year. Some of those were in the 20s, and they still stayed under. They did not score a single point in their final 2 games against both Michigan and then their bowl game. Yes, they're improved offensively this year, but Minnesota's a really good defensive team right now. In fact, pretty impressive what they did in that first opener against UNC. That 19-17 home loss came down to the wire, held a decent UNC offense to just 105 passing yards. Did give up 147 rushing yards, which was a concern. But look at the last 2 weeks against Rhode Island and Nevada, 18 and 58 rushing yards allowed. This Iowa team still has to get it done on the ground. The Hawkeyes have run for over 200 yards in all 3 games, but I do think this Minnesota rush defense is solid. I look for a low-scoring game. Let's play it like we would have played it last year, and that's under 35.5.
Steve stops by here at the Voice of College Football every week, but you can catch Steve's work every day. And Steve, there's a extra incentive to do so now.
Yeah, it's a great time of the year. We've got college and pro football. Went 5-2 last week, including 3-1 last Saturday in college football alone. Baseball, though, don't sleep on baseball. 29-9 current best bet run on baseball as we head into the playoff stretch. Pick any game you'd like. Get one of my personal best bets for free. Here's how it works. Each game is $25. Go to my page, SteveMerrillWagerTalk.com. Select the $25 selection you want at checkout. Use promo code VOICE25, and you get an instant $25 credit, which means you get that best bet for free. Do it right now. Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com.
Keep in mind, folks, that Steve stops by to break down all the big games across college football, so you can just kind of hop to the various team channels and check them all out. But if you want the under-the-radar selection that Steve provides us here at the Voice of College Football, go to Patreon, /MarkRogersTV, or become a premium YouTube channel member on the main channel to get Steve's under-the-radar selection exclusive to us at the Voice of College Football. 23-6 against the spread since the first week of 2022. Find out more now. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.